when it comes to a marriage, there has to be a conversation, and a lot of people are not having those conversations that are needed to have to sustain a conducive marriage that's going to end up lasting long. Because the fact of the matter is, when you're getting married, you're going to transition through seasons, and you're going to, if you're not choosing to grow with each other, then you'll grow apart from each other. And I can see that both on the men and the women's side. Although I did want to say, as responding to Pretty, is that when women are having custodial rights over the children, if they would be willing to give men 50-50 custody truly, then and remove the costs, because if the child is living with the mom and equally with the father, majority of the time I'm seeing that more men would actually parent equally. The fact of the matter is because custody actually resides more with the mother than with the father, that removes access to the father. And majority of men, when they divorce a woman, they don't want shit to do with her. But they do want to be able to be a father still. The fact that they can't comes from the mother, and the hard part of being able to still be present. Most men want to still be fathers. I did also want to point out, Bo, as much I before I say this, is I love and respect you dearly. Although what your circumstance was when you got divorced is not the majority of the average woman's circumstance. And I hear your example of the example of, women can pay, women do pay. That's not the average woman, not majority. And so that example of being able to use it with the average woman, it kind of sounds like it's way off put, because just like we keep saying, that's not the average man. Well, the average woman doesn't have what you have or what you have been able to attain, that was passed on to you. And the average woman doesn't have a home passed on to her. The average woman doesn't have the ability to like purchase a home. Majority of people, like we have said on this panel, they're renting their homes. So that's not the average circumstance that we can apply to the average person with the average couple. If we're going to speak to the point of the average person, majority of the time it's a woman and a man who maybe together collectively make anywhere from 70 to 90K, because most of them are able to retain the child tax credit at the beginning of the year. And then from that, boom, all kinds of other things that we don't need to go into that type of conversation. But that's who we're talking about. So just like we're talking about the average man, we can't sit here and use the example of, well, the woman can pay, that's just not normal. That's not what's happening like right now. And when we're talking about the average man does not have access to his child the way he desires. And we see it more and more because actually, toward the statistic that Trev had said, 84% of men are actually dying alone or lonely. That also correlates with the fact that men make up 80% of the suicide rate in the United States of America. And so if we keep sitting here telling men, you don't matter, and it doesn't matter because of your choices and mistakes, then the opposite side of that would be to tell women, keep your legs closed on who you're allowing to dip, because the fact of the matter is, a man doesn't have access to dip into a woman just like that. It's not by force. And if we want to talk about those statistics, that's something totally different. But just like we're sitting here telling on men like, hey, you don't matter because of A, B, and C. Well, then I guess majority of women also don't matter because they're just allowing men to just dip inside them raw, shoot up the club, and then them also knowing that a baby can come out of that.
I agree with you, Naomi. I was speaking because when I started talking about that, what I was saying was there is going to be an uptick in these types of occurrences that are happening. So I know that it doesn't happen in large numbers. I wasn't saying that it does. I was just saying like this also happens. Like there are instances of this happening. I know about average people. The average woman does not make that much money, just like the average man doesn't. That's why they're average. I get that. So no, I wasn't trying to I wasn't trying to say this is what, this is the majority or this happens a lot. But my point really was, and sorry for repeating myself again, that it may be larger numbers in the near future, or we may see on another statistic, some type of study that it has increased. That's all I was saying, because things are different now.
Okay, so what you were saying, then I misinterpreted what you were saying. What you were saying is that it's not the majority, but it is something that happens now that may increase later.
Yeah.
I
That's literally what she said twice.
Go ahead, pretty.
So, I think these are one of the conversations. Like when you say being earlier, you kind of spoke to me being dishonest and disingenuous in the conversation. And I try to be, I will say I'm admitted very biased towards women, but I try to heal my bias, like my natural proclivity to women, with statistics. And one of the things that I will say when it comes to statistics that show that the majority of times when a relationship severs, custody is determined out of court. Over 80% of the time, people decide on custody without court at all. So, most of the times when we have conversations about people being upset with custody, they never went to court. They never did. And then when we're talking about the ones who did go to court, if the man files for custody first, he gets the best outcome, meaning he gets the outcome he desires over 80% of the time. They just don't. And the majority of times, men decide that the woman should be the primary custodial parent, physical custodial parent, not
Pretty
legal, physical. So let me just go ahead and just throw that out there that those are actual numbers. So I've been asking this question because I truly do. When I say intellectual, it doesn't mean I think I'm smarter than everyone. It means I'm willing to learn. So if somebody has any statistic that would prove me wrong, I am willing to hear it. If you can find me something that proves that men, on average, are just going into court and having an awful go at it, and they're not getting what they need, they really want their kids, they want them full-time, they want them 50-50, and they're just having a terrible go at it, I'd be willing to concede. But every single time we have this conversation, y'all sit here and talk about your cousin, Dayron, and his baby mama, Tyrika, and how they had a hard time. And I don't really care about them. They're cool or whatever. But I would like to speak about the average, the majority, because I don't know these people.
pretty.
So,
I'm sorry. You weren't done.
and I did want to speak to Bo's point, but Bo already clarified it. So I'm glad that she was able to speak to that. But that's something I did want to speak to, Naomi, because you did say that when it came to what I spoke on. And I just really do think if we're both challenging each other to be honest, let's go ahead and shake on it and be honest, both of us.
Pretty. Did you say that men majority of the time are deciding that the women are actually the better parent and that the kid should go with the mom?
Better parent was not in my argument, but the majority of times they do agree that the woman should have primary custody of the child.
Okay. So this is where I think, and I give the guys shit for this all the time. I think when people focus so hard on statistics, um, without understanding that it depends on how you interpret those statistics, and you kind of settle on the information that you have, and then you choose to, with your own opinion, to throw in a why, right? So when we say that men are agreeing to have women become the custodial parent, right? That's not actually true. That's an assumption, right? And I know the numbers say that women happen to be the custodial parent and that men, but a part of it could be that men are just conceding. because they don't even think that they can be the custodial parent. And a lot of like there's a current structure that we have. Like, for example, right? One time I had a domestic situation with my sister, right? And I didn't do anything wrong. But when I called my friends, they said, yo, when she said she gonna call the police, you gotta leave. I said, I didn't do nothing. I'm not about to leave. They said, yo, you have to go because you are a man and you're going to get arrested, right? Now, this is the mindset of the vast majority of the people where I come from because there's a precedent. Now I understand that that's not true. I should have never left because she got an emergency restraining order because she talked to the police. And the next day, I couldn't live there no more, right? Now, that's just the mindset because of the precedent, because people think that's how it works. So when we jump to the conclusion that, oh, men and women are just deciding together, most cases, that the kid should be with the woman. That's not true, but you're saying it because you're looking at numbers and you're fixating on them and you're creating your own why, which is your opinion. That makes sense.
So you created another why, and I was looking for you to contest me with another statistic.
Yeah. So I don't know if you heard what I said.
I think what Mark was trying to say is that the statistic is lacking a lot of context, and the context that it might be lacking is the fact that the statistic is not compensating for the fact that a man has said, I actually think she is better off with the child, versus the man just conceding and bowing out just to maintain peace and refrain from having a dispute, an ongoing dispute, and having a kid dangling in and out of the courtrooms. It doesn't. I don't believe the wording or the language in the statistics compensate for that type of understanding, and I think that's what Mark was trying to point to. But that intellectually went over your head.
Yeah, so let's not do that. Let's not throw in the shots because it intellectually did not go over my head. It intellectually didn't land. So when
That's
we're
even
sitting
worse.
here, so no, don't do that. Because you couldn't say the word statistic. So you're not about to sit here and talk to me about intellectualism and anything like that when you were like, let's not do that. It's just, let's keep it cute. Let's keep it cute.
Give
Not a
credence.
conversation.
Right.
Let's keep it cute.